Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Samson. And of course, as we all know, there are two different types of daily runs in general. The first one being is where the run is kind of a slog, it's very slow, you don't get a lot of strong items, but you keep finding ways to go forward and you just keep maybe finding new AWAS runes or the shovels or anything like that. You basically find seams and the run doesn't really let you go until you kind of paid your price. And of course, the second type of run is like this one, where you start out really strong but the run only goes to mom's foot, so not really that far at all. So you don't really have the chance of kind of using your potential of just how strong the run is to its fullest. And of course, in this case, when you place a bomb down next to a Tinted Rock, and not only do you get 2 Spirit Hearts out of it, which is already pretty unusual, but you also find a crawl space, and you find a secret room, and of course in that crawl space then you find a magic mushroom. That's usually a good indication that what you have on your hands is a really good run, and at this point really the only thing we need is an Ivy bag, so we'll get some maybe more swag bonus that way, and also just as a way to kind of trigger our Bloody Lust so we can get even more damage. So we're in a really good position now, and maybe what I would urge you in this case is to kind of think about it. Like, sure, going for the Devil Deals in this case seems like a very attractive option, because if you do that, of course we have enough health. If you go for the Devil Deals, there's an increased chance of actually finding the shovel, because of course we'll get more of them, but I think it's not worth actually trading our health away, because just getting that Ivy bag or just having the ability to really trade our health away is going to be so important if we actually want to maximize our score at the end. And let's say that the run goes to Mega Satan, and what you're looking for is something like a 50,000 point score just in general. And if you're gonna find a breaking maybe combination of something, like let's say we're gonna get 5,000 points from just playing the Ivy bag, relatively speaking that's only gonna be about 10% of your final score, and it's not gonna be that much. But if you're actually only going to Mom, and of course if you get the Ivy bag and you still get the same 5,000 points which you would have gotten by actually going to Mega Satan, but in the case because you're going to Mom, you're only gonna get like 20,000 points in total. Those 5,000 points, instead of being only 10% of your relative score, now suddenly become like 25% of your relative score. So it becomes much more important just to be aware of your breaking opportunities and just where you can actually maximize on your swag bonus, because it becomes, like I said, much more important, relatively speaking, if you actually want to get a good ranking. And this is something that I do in this daily to some degree, like I'll show you what I exactly mean when we actually get to that point. And I feel like this is the result, or at least this is what actually gave me a relatively decent score in the end, of course, also a relatively good ranking. But as we're kind of going to the daily at this point, there's really not much to say or do, because we're so strong. I picked up the Shoop the Whoop, which is, first of all, just a good item for clearing runes, because it's on a 2-room charge, but the end goal here is to kind of use it on boss rush, because we have so much damage. Of course, if we can get an Ivy bag, or maybe if we can get, like a Blood Bank on that floor, we can kind of maximize our damage. At 20 damage, we'll be pretty much able to instantly one-shot most, if not all, bosses as soon as we use Shoop the Whoop. And of course, because it goes through the whole room, that means that in most cases, or at least in some cases, we're gonna be able to take 2 of them. And when you get something like Polyphemus, then you know that you're pretty much, that this strategy is actually gonna pay off in the end. Of course, with Polyphemus, we have 30 damage, so we don't have anything to worry about from this point forward. But even without it, I still feel like we would have enough damage to really kind of deal with boss rush in a much easier manner. And that's the main reason why I'm sticking to the Hermit card. I actually want to go to boss rush, I want to do it. I don't expect to take any damage because this is such a potent combo, and then I want to teleport out. And I even kind of forebode some of the other cards, which maybe I would usually prefer in a usual daily run, but because this is only going to Mom's foot, I feel like having the Hermit card is going to be much more important for us. And the way I look at it, sure, there was a way to go to the dark room on the 4th floor, I think, and usually that would be a pretty good idea to take it, but because I had the Hermit card, I knew I could teleport out of boss rush, which means I had not only Caves 1, so the 5th floor to actually use if I actually wanted to go to the dark room, and that's what I would have done if there was a sacrifice room there, but because there wasn't, I still have another chance of actually getting that sacrifice room on the Mount floor, and of course I can still access it because I can teleport out of boss rush. So that was kind of my end goal here, but sadly, luckily, depending on how you look at it, there wasn't a sacrifice room on the Mount floor, so I was kind of stuck in this position, and the only thing I really could have left to do here is to kind of abuse my situation that I didn't take a lot of Devil Deals, which means I have a lot of red health, which means I can of course then go and play a lot of blood banks and just get a lot of points that way. And because I have Sackboy, of course we can expect to not only get some cards, but also some of the other consumables. With the Humbling Bundle, we're pretty much, I won't say guaranteed, but the odds of actually us at least maximizing our containers for our consumables, it's looking to be a pretty good bargain. And I feel like this is maybe the difference between what I did today, which actually netted me a pretty good rank in the end, and as opposed to maybe what someone else did and was as a result a bit lower than me in the just because they didn't get as much score. And of course what I did at this point is I did buy Mom's Box. I was kind of hoping for cracked dice, and if I get an Ivy bag as well from the blood bank, I would be able to break that way, but sadly nothing happened. Like, I didn't get the Ivy bag and I didn't get the cracked dice. But what I was able to do is actually play this quite a lot because of the Polaroid, but also there was quite a lot of red health just kind of scattered around, so I was able to kind of take that to my advantage. And at the end, of course, I was also able to go to the boss trap room because I kind of forced myself down to only 1 red health, so I was able to do that for like an additional 300 points in the end. So maybe the final play here is just getting the Ace of Spades and realizing that everything on the floor is basically useless, so I can transform that into keys, I can pick them up, and of course get more points that way. And you can see that I'm sitting in a really comfortable 24,000 points at this point, and that's a really good score if you're just going to Mom. Of course, you would usually expect to have like a 24,000 score when you're on the Womb 2 floor, so to have that much actually at this point already is a pretty good indication that the run went well somewhere. And if you kind of look at the stat sheet, sure, our item penalty is a bit big, but I think what offsets it is because we got so many items which kind of helped us out, and not only the damage department but also in the terms of getting more consumables. So I feel like the Shrek bonus definitely paid for the item penalty, if that makes sense, and the rest of it of course is exploration bonus, which was also pretty decent, and damage penalty, which luckily was very low. I think I only got hit 2 times on this run, which is kind of quite an achievement for me. I was very proud of that when I actually saw it. So in the end I ranked 20th, which is like top 10. Obviously I would expect some people to find a way forward, but I think for the majority of cases this is gonna stand. Like, this is gonna be a pretty good daily unless people find a very obvious sim, and of course then share it, and then maybe some other people cheat and use it to get even more points just by going to the next floor. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.